Hello, everyone. My name is Tegan Hanavan, and today I will be presenting our research titled Risk-Based Tuning of SIEM Systems for Improved Threat Detection Accuracy. This is for the 2026 International Conference on Security and Management. This work was completed in collaboration with Dr. Yan, Dr. Chen, and Dr. Willisson. This study investigates whether integrating the NIST Special Publication 830 Risk Management Framework into SIEM tuning can improve threat detection accuracy, reduce false negatives, and provide more meaningful alert prioritization. Today, I'll discuss the methodology we used, the results we observed, and the implications for cybersecurity operations. Security Information and Event Management Systems, or SIEM systems, are critical for modern cybersecurity operations, but many SIEM deployments rely heavily on default configurations. Many organizations deploy SIEM solutions and leave them largely in their default state until much later on when an event highlights the need for tuning. This creates several challenges. High volumes of alerts can overwhelm analysts, creating alert fatigue. At the same time, critical alerts may be missed entirely if detection rules are not properly tuned. The lack of contextual awareness within default configurations can make it difficult to distinguish between low-risk and high-risk events. As a result, organizations may have a false sense of security while important threats may remain undetected. The research focused on whether integrating risk management principles directly into SIEM tuning could improve detection performance. Specifically, we wanted to determine whether using NIST Special Publication 830 as a framework for evaluating risk would improve detection accuracy, reduce false negatives, and improve severity classification, with the hopes of enhancing monitoring effectiveness and providing a practical approach for organizations, especially those with limited cybersecurity resources. To address this question, the study had 5 objectives. First, measure the baseline performance of a SIEM using its default configuration. Second, develop a structured risk register for the attacks included in the study. Third, implement risk-based tuning within the SIEM. Fourth, measure changes in detection accuracy. And finally, compare detection coverage and alert severity before and after tuning. This research is important because SIEM effectiveness directly impacts an organization's ability to detect and respond to threats. Risk-based tuning can reduce analyst alert fatigue, improve prioritization of critical events, support proactive monitoring, and provide a cost-effective solution for organizations with budget constraints by using open-source tools. More broadly, this work helps bridge the gap between risk management frameworks and technical detection engineering. Before discussing the methodology, I'd like to briefly review the key concepts involved. A SIEM system collects and correlates logs from multiple sources to identify security events. Risk management frameworks, such as NIST Special Publication 830, help organizations evaluate threats based on likelihood and impact. For attack classification, this research used MITRE-CAPEC, which provides structured information about attack patterns, severity, and mitigation strategies. Finally, detection performance was evaluated using metrics such as true positives, false negatives, and detection rate. Our research environment was built in VMware Workstation Pro and simulated a small enterprise network. As shown in the diagram, the network was segmented into WAN, DMZ, and LAN zones using a pfSense firewall. A Kali Linux machine acted as the external attacker. A purposely vulnerable web server using DAM Vulnerable Web Application, or DVWA, was hosted in the DMZ. A MySQL database server and Linux workstation were placed in the LAN, with the database server being connected to the web server. The Linux workstation was used for the insider attacks and had different accounts to simulate different users with different levels of access. Waza SIEM collected logging from all endpoints and network devices. This controlled local environment allowed us to safely execute and analyze attacks without doing harm to a real enterprise or network. The study included both external and internal attack scenarios. External attacks included reconnaissance, web enumeration, SQL injection, brute force attacks, reflected cross-site scripting, and web shell uploads. Internal attacks simulated insider threat activity, including abuse of legitimate access, unauthorized access attempts, privilege escalation, credential harvesting, persistence, service disruption, and log clearing. To ensure consistency, each attack was executed 100 times using automation tools such as Burp Suite and Linux for loops. The research followed a two-phase comparative methodology. In phase 1, attacks were executed against the default WASA configuration. A risk register was then developed using NIST Special Publication 830 principles and MITRE CAPEC classifications. Custom tuning rules were created based on those risk assessments. Finally, the same attacks were repeated in phase 2 and the results were compared. By comparing the two phases, we measure changes in detection coverage, false negatives, and severity classification. During the baseline phase, WASA operated with its default configuration. While many attacks generated alerts, several important attack types were not detected at all, including abuse of legitimate access, unauthorized access attempts, persistence, and brute force attacks. Additionally, severity levels often did not reflect the true risk of the attack, with some high-risk events labeled as low or medium priority and the alerts lacked meaningful context. These findings reinforce the concern that default configurations may not provide adequate visibility into organizational risk. The risk registers served as the foundation for the tuning process. Each attack was mapped to a corresponding MITRE CAPEC entry and assigned likelihood and severity values. These risk assessments were then used to determine how alerts should be classified and prioritized within the SIM. This risk register provided the foundation for custom WASA tuning rules, allowing alert severity and descriptions to align with the actual risk posed by each attack. Additionally, MITRE CAPEC also provides possible mitigation strategies for each attack. By incorporating risk information directly into the detection logic, we aim to make alerts more meaningful and actionable. In phase 2, we implemented custom WASA rules based on the risk register. These rules adjusted severity levels, created new detections for previously missed attacks, and improved alert descriptions to provide more actionable information for analysts. The same attacks were then executed under identical conditions. Because the attacks remained unchanged between phases, any differences in performance could be attributed directly to the tuning process. The results showed a clear improvement after risk-based tuning. After tuning, every attack included in the study generated detections. Previously missed attacks, such as brute force attempts and several insider threat scenarios, were successfully identified. Alert descriptions became more informative, and severity levels more accurately reflected the actual risk posed by each attack. This chart highlights the improvement in detection coverage. Several attacks that produced 0 detections in phase 1 were fully detected after tuning. Notably, abuse of legitimate access, unauthorized access attempts, persistence activity, and brute force attacks all transitioned from no detection to complete detection coverage. Overall, visibility into both internal and external threats improved substantially, with detection coverage increasing to 100% across all simulated attack categories. This slide provides a more quantitative view of the results. Looking at the attack level detection rates, every attack achieved a 100% detection rate after tuning. At the overall system level, phase 1 produced approximately 53,853 true positives and 2,866 false negatives. This resulted in a detection rate of approximately 94.9% and a false negative rate of 5%. After risk-based tuning, false negatives were reduced to 0. The detection rate increased to 100%, demonstrating complete coverage of the attack scenarios included in the study. Detection alone is not sufficient. Analysts also need alerts to be prioritized correctly. During phase 1, many attacks were assigned low or medium severity regardless of their actual risk. After tuning, severity levels aligned with MITRE CAPEC risk classifications. For example, Reflected cross-site scripting testing was elevated to critical severity, and brute force attacks were classified as high severity. This improvement enables analysts to focus on the most important threats first. Several important observations emerged from the study. First, default SIM configurations missed multiple attack types entirely. Second, insider threats proved particularly difficult to detect without customization. Third, high-volume attacks generated large quantities of alerts that could overwhelm analysts. Finally, risk-based tuning improved not only detection coverage but also the overall quality and usefulness of alerts. This shows how SIM effectiveness is not static. It requires continuous tuning and adaptation to the threat landscape. In conclusion, this research demonstrates that risk-based SIM tuning significantly improves threat detection accuracy. By integrating NIST Special Publication 830 and MITRE CAPEC into WASA tuning, we eliminated false negatives in our test environment, improved severity classification, and produced more actionable alerts. These findings confirm that default SIM configurations are insufficient for effective security monitoring and that structured risk-based tuning is both effective and reproducible. Like any research, this study has limitations. The environment was a small-scale lab rather than a production enterprise, so enterprise-scale complexity was not fully represented. The attack scenarios represented only a subset of possible threats. Cloud resources were not included, and integration with additional security tools was limited. Future research should validate these findings in larger and more complex environments. Future work could expand this research in several ways. Potential directions include integrating threat intelligence feeds, applying machine learning detection models, expanding attack coverage, testing cloud environments, integrating additional security tools, and automating SIM tuning processes. Additional research could also examine WAS's behavior during normal business operations to better understand false positive rates and responses to benign traffic. This research reinforced several lessons. SIM effectiveness depends heavily on tuning. Risk frameworks provide valuable context for detection engineering. Continuous improvement is essential. Default tools are insufficient without customization. Finally, meaningful improvements can be achieved using open source technologies and structured methodologies. To summarize, risk-based SIM tuning is a highly effective approach for improving threat detection accuracy. It reduces false negatives, improves alert prioritization, reduces analyst burden, and enhances real-time threat detection capabilities. Importantly, this approach is practical and reproducible, making it especially valuable for organizations with limited cybersecurity resources. This concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time and attention. I appreciate the opportunity to present this research at the 2026 International Conference on Security and Management. I welcome any questions, discussion, or feedback. My email is provided on this slide for further communication. Thank you.